In this video, I want to trace the function isBalancedRecursive to show you that it works. So here's an example where we should return true because this expression is balanced. So let's try to trace this. So we're calling isBalancedRecursive with this expression, which means that counter by default is 0. So now s is equal to this thing, and counter is equal to 0. The length of s is not 0. Counter is not smaller than 0. So we go here. S at 0 is the opening parenthesis, which means that we increment counter by 1. And now we call isBalanced with s starting from index 1 and up to the end, and counter, which is now equal to 1. So that means that the call is this, like that. And again, so now s is equal to this. S at 0 now again equals the opening parenthesis. So we got to increment counter by 1, and we call isBalanced again. So it's going to be a call without the first opening parenthesis and with counter incremented to 2. S at 0 is now the closing parenthesis, so we got to decrease counter by 1. So the next call is going to be like that. Again, we have a closing parenthesis as the first character, so we got to decrease counter, and we got to remove the first character. So the length of s is now 0, and we just got to return counter equals 0 to make sure that when the string is empty, so when we ran out of character, the counter is 0. And it indeed is 0, which means that this thing returns true, which means that this thing returns true because here the expression is just return isBalanced, whatever the argument is. So we return true all down the line to here, and this returns true as it should. Alright, let's try one that's not balanced. So let's try this guy at first. So let's call isBalanced with open parenthesis, close, close, like that. So that's not balanced. So in the first call, the string is not empty, so we got to increase counter by 1. So the first call is going to become like that. Now the first character is the closing parenthesis, so this should become 0. That's going to be the call. And now again it's the closing parenthesis, so that means that at this point the thing should become -1. So now the length of the string is 0, the string is empty, and we got to return counter equals 0. In this case, counter equals 0 evaluates to false, so this returns false, which means that we got to return false all down the line again, like that, and now like that. So this returns false as it should. Again, the reason we return false all down the line is that once you start returning, you just return the result of this expression isBalanced. You are not modifying it in any way as you go down the call tree from here to here to here to here to here. Let's try one that's shorter. So if you call isBalancedRec with this kind of thing, with close parenthesis and then open parenthesis, what's that gonna look like? Well, so you're calling it, so you see that the first thing is a closing parenthesis, so counter has got to decrease by 1. So the first call from inside isBalancedRecursive is going to be like this, -1, and then the opening parenthesis. Now the length of S is not 0, but counter is now -1, so it's smaller than 0, so you return false straight away. So from here, you'll return false, and that means that from here, you'll also return false because you're returning false all down the way, down the recursion tree. So what you see is that this is really a very similar algorithm to this. Again, you just go character by character in S, and if at any point the counter becomes negative, you return false. That's exactly what happens here.